What is going on, guys? Welcome to Gregulous TV. In this video, I'm going to tell you everything that I like and don't like about the Google Pixel Fold. This is my review. I've had this phone for over a week now, and it's time you know exactly what I think about this. You've probably seen some of the videos leading up to this, but I'm going to go a little bit more in depth in some of those areas. So without further ado, let's jump into this. And I do want to let you know there'll be timestamps down below in the description. So if you want to jump or look at a certain piece that's more interesting to you, I will let you guys know, or you can just look down below actually. So without further ado, let's jump into this. So the first thing is speakers. Let's talk about the speakers on the Google Pixel Fold. So for me, the speakers are not as good as I was hoping they would be. They're still pretty good. They're just not as good. When I compare them to the Galaxy Z Fold 4, that actually sounds a little bit better to me, a little bit clearer, a little bit bassier. This isn't a slouch, don't get me wrong, but it's just not where I would personally want it to be. It's something I want to see them improve on, is the sound of the Pixel Fold. So if you want really great sound, this is not going to be the best sound, but it's pretty good overall. What about talking on the phone? I think it's one of the areas a lot of people don't talk about. So for me, when I'm holding it up to my mouth, perfectly fine, no issues. The problems that I see arise, and I've heard back from other people while I'm talking to them, is on speakerphone. I generally use the phone on speakerphone or with headphones. With headphones, obviously, if the headphones sound good in general with Bluetooth and talking over the phone, that'll be fine. That'll continue to be good, especially with this phone. But just talking on the phone through speakerphone, I've heard that I sound a little bit more muffled. It's a little bit harder to hear me. I didn't have issues like that on other phones that I've used, especially from Samsung, which are generally the phones that I use. So just keep that in mind if you do hear that when you speak on speakerphone, especially if you're a little bit further away, or even if you're kind of close to it, it might not be the ultimate clearest calls that you've had. Screen brightness on the Pixel Fold. If you put this thing up to 100%, you can see it pretty freaking well. Have it be outdoors, which at 100% I can still see it. I'm a little bit older. A young person would probably be like, this is beautiful, I can see it great. For me, it isn't as bright as I would like it to be outdoors, but for all the foldable phones I've personally had, from the Vivos to the Galaxies to, I can't even think of the other one. I've had a few. This one's definitely the brightest. At 50%, that's another thing coming. It's like, you put this to 50%, I don't like it at 50%, which in my mind, I'm like, dang, this isn't bright. But then when I push it up to 100, I'm like, it's great, I can see it. But at 50%, Google does something where like it doesn't add up. It's like, I have to almost always keep this at 80 to 100%. It's the same thing with all the Pixel phones I've ever used in my life. At 50%, they're just so freaking dim. They're too dim. Anything between 70% low and 0, you can't really see it. So 80 to 100% looks pretty freaking good. Not the end of the world. It's not really anything bad. It's just, I like to have my phone at 50% so it doesn't have to use so much battery. And you could, if you can see it, but I just personally have a little bit hard time with the brightness from 70 to 0. 80 to 100 is pretty awesome. The displays in general are really good. I love it, especially the aspect ratio. I really like this short, kind of wide look on this. I use it a lot more on this phone than I have on almost any other foldable. It's not the perfect example of an outside display, but it's pretty awesome overall. This nice wide display, I look at it a lot better than Samsung's outside displays. And then the inside display is nice and wide. So multitasking looks great on here when you have it in this orientation. And you can even, flip it around like you can other foldable phones. And if a certain app doesn't fit as well in this short and wide aspect ratio, you can ultimately just flip it around and then get the proper aspect ratio. So that's a nice thing overall. It does take some getting used to. It took me a day or two to kind of get used to these wide display on the inside. I do make everything a lot easier with this, a love handle to being able to do one-handed mode, but I really like the displays on there, really pretty looking displays. Pixel Fold is heavy. I believe it's the heaviest foldable phone I've personally ever had, 10 ounces. You're gonna get some hand fatigue. If you use this one-handed, even with this thing, you get a little bit of pressure right here in your wrist, in your little bit of your forearm. So it's not as light as a Galaxy foldable if you're coming from that, or if you've held one of those. This is a little bit heavier, but you're getting a wider aspect ratio here and a wider aspect ratio here. So you take that with what it is, you know, in hand. Cameras, these are my favorite cameras on any foldable phone. I love taking photos, and I trust it so much more than any other foldable I've had for cameras. It doesn't take the best photos of any, you know, smartphone, but for the foldable ones, definitely. I trust this. It just takes some really nice photos. I've captured some beautiful photos, and if you have kids or a dog, and you want to take a photo, you know, sometimes the kids they're just a little wiggly and they move around a lot. This doesn't have issues with capturing the moment. I noticed with Samsung phones, if you have a kid or a dog and they move just a little bit, you're gonna get a slightly blurry photo if you zoom into that. So I love the photos on here. Videos are solid, not the, I don't know. I go back and forth with this and the Z Fold 4 in terms of the videos. I like this one sometimes, and then sometimes I like the Z Fold 4. It really depends on the situation, but the videos definitely hold up, and I love the microphones that capture the audio on this. Very nice and clear, loud. I love their microphones built into these foldable phones for the Pixel. Charging on this, you can wirelessly charge, you can wired charge. For me, I do wish it was definitely faster. I noticed that when I charge it up, I want that thing to go faster. It eventually gets me to 100%. I've turned off the adaptive charging, I think it's what it's called. That kind of can slow things down in the settings of charging this. So I turned that off so that it does charge the fastest that it can all the time. I definitely want faster charging though. Next time, give us that. Jump it up to 65 watt or 50 watt. I'd love to see a lot faster charging on this to cut those, you know, times in half. This is gonna take over an hour to fully charge this thing. Software on this and just the UI in general, I love it. It's very smooth. Smoothest foldable phone I've personally ever used. And that says a lot. There's a lot of smart things. I love the multitasking. I love just using it day to day. It works fantastic in that regard. So very, very happy with the overall software UI experience on here. It's really pleasurable and just enjoyable to use. So I love what they did with this. It's very intuitive and smart and feels great. 2 thumbs up for that. Apps not being optimized, it is a thing on foldable phones. Galaxy has issues with this. This phone has issue with this. This phone probably even has more incompatibilities with apps that aren't optimized. What I mean by that is you're gonna open up an app on here and it doesn't take over the full screen. You have to ultimately either turn it this way. And what I mean by that, I don't mean on the front display, I'm talking about on this big inside display. A lot of the apps, you know, for instance, in Instagram, I'm looking at you hold it this way, and then you're gonna kind of hold it this way to get a bigger aspect ratio, but then you still have, you know, the bars on the side there. So there's gonna be a lot of apps that they work, but they don't fill up the whole screen. Hopefully an app date will come out, or Google will have an update with the software that do some of the things that are needed to enhance the overall usage of the screen on there. But right now it is a little bit of an issue right now, but it doesn't hurt my experience all that much. Battery life on the Pixel Fold is adequate. Foldable phones in general don't really have good battery life. This is, you know, jumping in, it's comparable to what I get with the Galaxy Z Fold 4. It can be the same or a little bit better than that. I've seen it be, you know, so it depends on the day. Every day is pretty much different. Right now it is 12:45 and I'm at 43%. I've been using my phone a lot, but generally by, you know, early afternoon, I have to start charging this up. Sometimes if I don't use it that much, obviously I can get into the later afternoon with this. But for me, I usually see about anywhere between 4.5 up to close to 6 hours of screen on time. I know that's kind of a big jump, but it depends on the day, what I'm doing and all of that. But expect at least about 4.5 hours, somewhere probably realistically 4.5 to 5.5 hours of screen on time. Fingerprint sensor does work pretty well. It's not my favorite. It is faster than the Galaxy Z Fold 4, but sometimes it's just not as accurate, I feel like. But it opens up quickly. It works pretty well. Face unlock works well only on the front screen. It's not on the inside screen. So I wish it was better. I wish the buttons kind of were able to figure out a little bit more. They both feel very similar, the volume buttons and the fingerprint sensor / power button. So I think it can be improved, especially with some kind of texture on there or something a little bit different than the volume buttons, but overall the fingerprint sensor works well. Performance, this has a Tensor G2 processor, and raw benchmarks, it doesn't do as well as a Snapdragon 8 Gen 1 or 8 Gen 1 Plus or 8 Gen 2, it doesn't. But it does, like I said, earlier in the video, performance is really well. Day-to-day usage, apps open really quickly. The phone runs really fast and smooth, and that has to do with software and the processor. So the processor, you can still game at pretty high levels. The processor with gaming will get hot, so keep that in mind if you're a gamer. This thing eats up and heats up pretty well to a point where it might feel too hot in your hand. But overall, for what I use the phone for, which is just regular social media, photo taking, day-to-day usage, I'm very happy with it overall. Gaming, I'm happy with it because I do a lot of light gaming, but it can handle higher end gaming as well. Just don't expect it to be the best of the best. Two things that you might be wanting in this phone that it doesn't have is a stylus. There's no stylus support as we know right now. So if you want to use a stylus or a pen on the front screen or the inside display, unfortunately, it doesn't have anything like that. For me, I don't even care. I never use a stylus, so it's a moot point for me. I don't really mind it, but if you wanted something like that, it doesn't have it. Also, it's expensive. It's $1,800, if not more, if you get the 512. So if you were hoping to get a folding phone and save a little money, these are generally not the phones that you would do it with. Now, they have some good trade-in offers at the carrier level where you can get these phones for basically half price after trading in a phone, so that makes it a lot more palatable. But they're still expensive. You tell someone it's $1,800, they're gonna turn away. These are still kind of science experiments in a way, because they're different. They have so many moving parts and they are still working out the kinks and making things better. But I love this phone. And I know I listed a lot of things that were somewhat negative and maybe not the best of the best, but there's a lot of positives to it too. And those positives are the experience that it provides you. I love using the software on this. It's just really fun to use. I love the displays, how wide they are, and how immersive they get. I love the performance. I do love the performance on there. It's just so great with how smooth it is. The cameras are awesome. And those are basic, regular things for me. And then it does the other things pretty well. There's nothing that I can think about that I really, really hate about it. The things I kind of dislike, I'm kind of just like, they're average or they're above average. And then there's things that I really love about it. So for me, this is the foldable currently to get. Doesn't mean it's the best of the best. Just for me personally, it's the foldable phone to get for most people. So check it out. It's linked down below. Thanks for watching. Have a great day. We'll see you down the road. Peace.